Hey guys, this is a Lorain County Friday Night Lights special edition. The Lorain High Elyria rivalry, 100 years on the Gridiron. I know that the Morning Journal and the Chronicle Telegram have done some things, especially when they played their 100th game. I believe that was in '94, and but I wanted this to be on YouTube, on video, new technology, because I felt like this rivalry deserved that. And I talked to, and I'll introduce them shortly, but this is kind of a little selfish thing that I put together because nothing against the Avon Lakes, or the Elyria Catholics of the world, but I wanted to talk about the high school football that I grew up with. One, Lorain High, Elyria, that rivalry, the Lorain High Emerald King rivalry, and then they'll talk a little bit about Sandusky. So I want to talk about the Buckeye Conference, my time at watching football at Ely Stadium and George Daniel Field, and I just don't want that to be forgotten. And I feel like these men should have their flowers because as the county expands, some of those Lorain, with the expansion of Avon Lake, Amherst, these communities grow. I still feel like this rivalry is important, and we talked about that if you looked at the podcast. So, without further ado, I wanted to introduce. We first of all, let's introduce Eric Bush. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the rivalry. And he's here on Zoom, and then we'll send it over to Tim and Tim Johnson and Jack Marsh. Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, first of all, thanks for having me on here. I've been looking forward to this ever since you kind of put it out there. And I'm Eric Bush, played tight end at Elyria, graduated in 1987, and I'm gonna toot my own horn here. I think I was probably one of the best tight ends in this rivalry. I was first team All Buckeye Conference, first team All Lorain County, first team All District, and second team All State as a tight end. Back in the '80s, it was run first, throw second, and I was 6'3", 225-pound tight end. I ran a 4.6 in the 40. So, I think I revolutionized the tight end position back in those days because again, it was run first. I mean, hell, we had Lamar Jackson in the backfield. Lamar Jackson was the first one to ever break Ike Maxwell's rushing record. And I'm gonna go on and say this: both of those guys should be in the Hall of Fame. I know there's some politics behind all that, but both of those guys should definitely be in there. I really enjoyed playing in the Buckeye Conference, all the teams, but especially, Lorain and Admiral King, because, our cities were so close to each other. We'd see each other at basketball camps and football stuff. And, I really look forward to it. I mean, I pretty much grew up on the rivalry, like you did, Richard, back my cousin Steve played on the undefeated, '79 team, and
I was at that
my
game.
brother. Yeah, I was there too,
Yeah.
and my cousin Steve Bush was a middle linebacker on that team, and when he left, my brother played, so I followed him, and I remember going to Ely Stadium, and I always wanted to know what was behind that red door under the stadium. I was like, man, what's behind that red door? Couldn't wait to put on that cherry helmet, the all red home uniforms. And,
They need to get back to that. I don't know what that black is all about.
yeah, I don't know either. I wish even if they just brought that back for homecoming, just all red, the cherry plain helmet. And, so I just,
turn it over in his grade.
So
and, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just saying that do you remember now? How many years did you play varsity at Larry High? You played.
I played. I was a 3-year letterman.
Okay, and what was your record against the Steelmen? You remember?
Uh, uh, if I believe, I don't think we ever beat them. To be honest with you,
Okay.
you know, my freshman year, we smacked them.
Okay.
We only gave, yeah, my freshman year, we only gave up, I believe it was 14 points all year. I mean, we had some thoroughbreds, and one thing I don't think a lot of people know, you know, back in the day when the freshmen played, they played out on the practice fields. But
Okay.
my year, because we were so loaded, our groundskeeper guy, Harry Davis, he kept that field looking like Augusta National Golf Course. He allowed our freshman team to play in Ely Stadium because we were bringing so many fans to the game. And so, yeah, I got in my freshman year. Then, unfortunately, as the years went on in my class, some of those thoroughbreds we lost along the way. And I mean, we probably lost a good 20 guys, you know, off that freshman team that we didn't have my, you know, senior year. I mean, I think my senior year, I think we were 5-5 or 6-4. You know, we lost to Lorain, but I think I had 4 catches that night, you know, on a touchdown. I remember Coach Zazinski, him and my dad were good friends, and he had told my dad, he was like, we game plan to stop Eric.
There
And,
you
you
go.
know, and I even remember, you know, Coach Providence and Amber King, we played on a Friday night, bad storms rolled through. We had to go back that Saturday to play. And I remember when Coach Providence became the Elyria coach and I came home to a game, he kind of said the same thing. He's like, Eric, we went back, we watched film because I had scored a touchdown right before they called the game. And he's like, our game plan was to stop you. So, you know, that meant a lot to me to hear that,
Right.
you know, after all those years. So, you know, I wish I was able to get home to more games, but, you know, my priority now is Cincinnati Bearcat football. I'm a, you know, season ticket holder for that. So
You're
I'm
season
not able
ticket
to.
holder for about every sport. What lacrosse, field hockey, everything.
Yeah, we you know, me and my wife, we, you know, Bearcat football, basketball, Cincinnati Reds. Now, I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm a Browns fan. Let's
There you
make
go.
that
There you
clear.
go. There you go.
Yeah,
There you go. So
but I just really
other than Lamar Jackson, who else played with you, the Pioneers?
Kent Jones was my quarterback.
Okay, he's
Um,
a member of Lorain County Friday Night
you know,
Lights.
Corey Williams was the safety and a punter.
He
And
went to Cincinnati along with you, right?
Yeah, Eric, you
yeah,
play with Rod too. Rod played with y'all.
yeah, I was getting
Rod
ready to say
Moore.
Rod Moore. Yep. So I mean, we had some athletes, but if we wouldn't have lost, like I said, those 20 guys, I really believe there probably could have been some banners hanging up in that gym because we were just so dominant, you know, at pretty much all the skill positions. And but yeah, we just unfortunately guys were ineligible or just, you know, got caught up with the wrong people, and you know, football just wasn't a priority for them. And you know, for me, with my last name being Bush, there was a lot of pressure on me because there were so many Bushes before me that, you know, were pretty good. So I had to make sure, you know, when I got my opportunity to put the uniform on, I had to make sure I produced. And like I said, I think I did a pretty good job every Friday night, you know, doing what I had to do to hold up that Bush name and, you know, the Elyria Athletics.
There you go. Hey, Eric, we want to thank you. We'll go back to you. We'll talk more about the Buckeye Conference after our first break when we introduce Tim Johnson, Elyria High Pioneer. Go ahead, Tim. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience as Elyria Pioneer.
Well, like I said, I played for Elyria High in football, ran track. Then eventually I ended up being on the coaching staff for Elyria High, and I really enjoyed that. And I had the opportunity to coach a lot of the young men there, just like one of them that's talking to us right now. So
you coached Eric in football and track.
yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about. I know you always mention Sandusky, and we'll talk about that more after the break. Well, just tell us about your experience at Elyria High football. When you start playing, some of the guys you played with, and which you guys end up record-wise.
You know, the funny thing about that, and Jack can attest to this, I remember, you know, before we started our year playing,
What year was
it
that?
was a three back offense, two halfbacks and a fullback. And then when we came, well, I guess Woody is the one that changed the offense, and Bill Bart, he you know, he was a Woody man. So
Okay.
so when Woody changed to the power eye, we changed to the power eye. So and unfortunately, I was the wing back. Jack Biden was the tailback because Jack only weighed 145 pounds, and Al Robinson,
Right.
Dr. Robinson,
Dr. Robinson.
I was the fullback, and I was the wing back. And you know, I didn't get to carry the ball about every game, but maybe 5, 6, 7 times a game.
Right.
But I was the second leading scorer on the team, I might say.
There you go. Now, what year was that, Tim?
Well, 67, 66.
Okay. What do you remember? Do you remember your guys' game against the Lorain High, and do you remember your guys' record in the Buckeye Conference?
Well, I'll put it to you like this: we were 9-1.
Only lost 2.
Sandusky.
I know we talked briefly at my aunt's house. We talked at my aunt's house Labor Day weekend, and you know, you can tell when people are pure athletes, because the thing that he circled back to was the loss to Sandusky, and that like still bothered him.
Yeah, I still have dreams about that game.
That's exactly what you said. 50 years ago, he's still talking about that. And then Eddie would come in, he's Lorain High Stillman. And me, as a fan of the Stillman, didn't get opportunity to play for the Stillman. I had to move on. But he mentioned Sandusky too. It's just a thorn in Lorain County's side. You know,
Yeah.
you probably, if you brought in an Amro, you'd say the same thing.
But they have some good athletes.
Right.
I mean, you know, Tom Darden.
Okay.
That ended up playing with the Browns.
You're right.
And then you had the Eddie Williams.
Okay.
Which
I
is
remember.
Stu Williams' brother.
Yeah.
George Garrett,
The Garrett.
George Garrett, and
yeah.
Willie Amerson, and
Willie Amerson.
Willie Shaw.
Isaac
All the
Amerson.
all the names I heard. Well, real quick before we move on to Jack, Eric, how'd you guys do against the Blue Streaks? So I got you here.
My senior year, we beat them, and I actually broke the receiving record for Elyria that night.
Your brother's record, correct?
Yes, my brother had 14 receptions, and again, I think my brother was a wingback, and I broke the record that year with I broke it with 15 that night, and I think I ended the year with 21, 22 receptions. So, you know, I held that record for a while, and then, you know, of course, once the offenses changed and it went from running the ball to more throwing spread offense,
Right.
you know, guys might have had almost 20 catches in one game. So I got lucky and beat them.
I was an 83 graduate, and I played down the road there, but they threw the ball to me 16 times. I caught 12 of them. And I think the leading guy in our conference had 20 receptions. I had 12. So everybody just ran the football. That's what it was in the 1980s. I think Oberlin had one Stout. He was the only one I know in the Lakeland Conference that had any kind of significant stats. But I mean, he ended up playing for the Steelers. He was an outlier. But so before I move on to Jack, I just want to talk a little bit about Tim. I know we talked last year or the year ago this weekend, but I was a track athlete. He said he coached you in track, but Tim was the youngest decathlete, and back then in Chronicle Telegram when the decathlon. So I wanted to. I always looked up to him because other than football, track is my second favorite sport. So and he said he probably would have won it twice, but he said he only pole vaulted what, 7 feet. Yeah. So when they ate a 7 feet pole vault. So it's just a type of athlete Tim was, and then he said you went on to the military, then you came back and you played
I went to Glen Oak.
junior college.
I
up in
ran
Michigan.
track at Glen Oak. Yeah.
Ran track at Glen Oak, and then how far did you go in the hurdles in high school at Elyria High? I know you were a hurdler, right?
Yeah, I have a school record for highs and lows for
Okay.
quite some time.
Right. So the great athlete here, and then we got Jack Marsh here. I want to introduce him. He's a
66,
19,
67.
19 played in the fall of 67, 1967 graduate of Elyria High. And go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, Jack.
Well, first of all, Tim and I literally grew up together, right in front of the stadium. All of my our experiences were spent out there in that field in the stadium. I was fortunate enough to play on a very good team, as Tim stated. Did make All-State defensive end. Was able to, as a result, got to go and be recruited at several colleges, along with other Buckeye Conference guys. Matter of fact, went to Michigan with George Garrett and Willie Amoson. Was recruited out to Wisconsin with two guys from Findlay. So the experience at Elyria really put us in a great position. I was able to obtain a football scholarship to Ohio State. The experience there was part of one of the best freshman classes ever at Ohio State. We did win the national championship in '68 and also in '70. So the experience carrying on from Elyria, and also having experienced the Elyria-Lorain rivalry, that was a unique experience for me our senior year. As I mentioned earlier, I had an uncle who had just come back, and he was one of the assistant coaches on Lorain at that time, Grover Quinn from Oberlin. So the rivalry has a very special meaning to me, and also having been on that team with guys like Tim and Jack Beidelman, Carl Leslie, we had an excellent group of athletes on the Elyria squad.
And so, what was your record against Lorain High? Do you recall?
We were undefeated. Lorain never beat us.
Lorain say like that. Okay.
Well, and in all fairness, I remember the Lorain teams. Like I said, growing up right there in front of the stadium, as a young child, I got to watch all the games. I used to go over, and I remember I watched Joe Man and
McFadden.
Some of those teams that they had back then, and they spanked Elyria pretty good. So so you understood that. And then by the time we got there, Admiral King had come on, and a lot of the athletes got split up, and as you all know, with both Admiral King and, as I said earlier, you had Clearview was drawing in Lorain players, and also St. Mary's.
Right.
So
Jack wasn't a night owl like I was, but I like we had a place called a Showcase Lounge, and on Sundays, high school kids could come out there.
Okay.
That's where a lot of smack talking and everything, because the Lorain guys, a lot of the Lorain guys were aggressive, the black ones. That could be coming over, after our women, like we'd be after theirs.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot of smack.
Yeah.
So we got, so that built up even more.
We got to the field. Right. Right. If you didn't know the person, you knew of them.
Right.
Exactly. That made the rivalry even more intense.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit more, Jack. I know you talk about your Ohio State career, and I know you told me the stories of you guys, like fourth grade. You guys were always playing outside. This generation, you can't find a kid. They got the thumbs. And my son was guilty of that. But tell us a little bit about the Buckeye experience as a Pioneer, the Buckeye Conference.
Well, the Buckeye Conference was, at the time we were playing, was probably the premier conference.
In the state of Ohio.
Right.
Right.
I think Lorain or Mansfield that year, our senior year, had tied Massillon. And Massillon was one of the
Right.
purebreds.
Right.
As a conference, we did very well. Of course, the toughest thing was probably the travel. But I remember we would go to Findlay, we'd go to Marion, on that
Fremont.
bus forever.
Fremont.
Yeah, Fremont. But the conference presented itself well because every school, I remember Findlay, I think it was Harry Gonzo,
Yeah.
ended up playing at Indiana and in the Rose Bowl. We played against a lot of players that ended up in Division I colleges out of
Right.
all the schools. I mean, every school that was in the conference.
So there was.
Like, do you remember the one saying that we had, y'all have, because you play defense too, about Gonzo?
No.
Red Rover, let
Oh,
Perry come over.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was,
I'll never forget that.
So it's
Yeah.
no weak sisters in the Buckeye Conference. Then.
no, there really, at the time probably was Marion. I
Okay.
mean, they had issues going on there, but as a matter of fact, Bidelman had, 5 touchdowns that game, I think. Tim, you had one, and Al Robinson is. So it was just a really competitive conference throughout.
I'm gonna put you guys on the
Mhm.
spot, and I've just heard these names, and I heard these names hanging out with Black ACs, right? I heard these names of Jack, and then just me being a part of Lorain County Friday Night Lights. I've heard Chester Ross, I heard Ike Maxwell, we've heard Bideman, Tim Johnson, and then back in the late '80s, Lamar Jackson. Though I'm sure you coached him.
Yes.
And so I'm gonna put you on the spot. Who's the best running back? Elyria High. Yeah, this not go by. Let's not go by numbers.
Yeah, now, do you want? I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, I
Yes,
want honest.
Lamar Jackson was a good running back, but
Okay.
Truthfully, Mike Rogers is the best running back that I've.
Mike Rogers.
Sorry.
What? He's the best running back ever at Elyria High.
I feel like he was.
Tell me why.
He had the strength and the power. He had speed. He was just a hell of a running back.
Okay. And that surprised me. Did you say, Mike? He's currently in South Carolina, and I believe his son is playing Division II football. He pops up every once in a while on Lorain County Friday Night Lights.
Right.
Okay, Jack, I'm gonna put you on the spot there.
Well, I guess I have to preface it with the fact that I left in '67 and
Yeah.
didn't get to.
Okay, well, man,
to-
you still got
Well,
a nice
but
area.
right,
You can
but
always watch the
it's-
football area.
And if you look at it, I mean, there was a plethora of really great running backs.
Right,
I mean,
right. I just named a few. I didn't even get
right,
into Oliver's.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
I was
yeah,
saying.
right,
exactly.
yeah. I forgot about
Yeah,
them.
right. And the Hubert was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Is,
Just,
yeah,
you're right.
so-
Madison. Yeah, I mean,
so it when
in your
you
era, who, if you had to, you have to.
Well, I coached Madison and all of them were good backs.
Right.
Mhm. So,
Right.
but
3rd and 4, who you giving the ball to? We need a first down. You're playing the blue streaks. You're inside the 20, and you're
inside the 20.
inside the 20.
Well, I mean, with our offense, you gave it to either Tim or Al.
Okay.
If you wanted 40 yards, you gave it to Biden.
Okay.
So it was just that simple. And I blocked for all of them.
Okay. Now,
Right.
So I played both sides of the ball.
Now,
So-
you was telling me a story. You were out there blocking, and you look back, and I remember you telling me briefly one of the backs went the wrong way, and he said he did that all season. So I really couldn't say anything. What happened there?
Actually, that was Jack.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jack would break a play, and probably the one I remember the most was at Sandusky
Okay.
because we had
Some blue
we-
streaks, man.
we had literally opened up a hole that was there. Jack decided to go the other way.
Yeah.
And
That was after I had broke off a
right.
long
Yeah,
run.
Tim had broke off, what was it, about 45 yards, 60 yards? And we had a play, it was a perfect play. I mean, there was a hole there, and later in the film, even Amadeo, who was our coach at the time, the running back coach, I think he yelled more in the film session than he did out on the field that
Yeah.
night. So that was a game we should have won. As a matter of fact, it was later on when I was recruited at Michigan, and I was with Tom Darden, or excuse me, with George Garrett and Willie Amison up there,
Right.
and it was bought up that they didn't think they were going to win the game, and we just gave it to them, and that's literally what happened.
Right. And then I know Mr. Kershaw, he was my principal. I know he Kershaw's played along with you, and they went to what, Northwestern and Buffalo
Right.
University.
Right.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
because there was Pat too.
Yeah,
Man.
okay.
Pat
okay.
went to the Northwestern. He was there when I was at Ohio State. He and Al were both at Northwestern.
Okay.
Al
Okay.
Robinson.
Okay. So when I get Eddie and Tracy, and I'll talk about who I think was the best Lorain High back that I ever seen. And there's a long list of those, just similar to Elyria High. Yeah, but what my connection was when I was talking about the Buckeye Conference, I grew up on the east side of Lorain, which was a Stillman side of town. And I just remember we talked about the Buckeye Conference and all the long rides. I remember the Lorain High Stillman, and I forgot we used to get out of school at probably 3:30 then. They would leave the whole team would leave at 2:15 to make it down, all the way down to Marion for an 8 o'clock game.
Oh, yeah.
And I just like, man, that's crazy, unheard of. Some of the bigger schools today do that. They travel, but I don't think you could get any of the local schools, Eric, to do that. Do they? I know you're in Cincinnati. Other than maybe some of the bigger schools, the bigger Catholic schools might travel, but you just don't have that anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I know when we got out about 2 o'clock, and we had the nice Greyhound type buses, and we got to go to our team meal was at Ponderosa, and
Wow.
we had to get we had to get chop steak. I think you got a salad. A lot of guys took about 50 rolls, because after the game, you didn't know if you were going to stop. Now, I was very fortunate. My mom and dad came to every game.
Okay.
So when I was taking a shower, if there was a McDonald's or a Burger King nearby, they would go get me something to eat. So I'm in the back of the bus eating like a king, and everybody's looking at me like, damn, Bush back there grubbing. And I said, hey, that's how my mom and dad were. They never missed. My mom and dad never missed a game from flag. I had to play flag football. We didn't have tackle, unfortunately, but from the time I was 6 years old until my last game at UC, my mom and dad never missed a game. Right. But yeah, those were some long bus rides, especially when the game was over. Back then, like you said, we had 8 o'clock kickoffs.
That's right.
So you were getting done late, and then you had that long bus ride home. You probably wasn't getting home till 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
So, but yeah, those were the days.
So, like I always, and Tracy will tell you a little bit when we bring Eddie and Tracy on the air, we they were like, I mean, when you're looking at you're in 5th and 6th grade, man, those are your football heroes. Growing up, Stillman and Elyria, Emerald King, and I just, with the 3 high schools, and living in Lorain, I always got a Friday night game, because it could always, even if Southview played, we'd go and watch them. They weren't as successful, and evident they never got into the Buckeye Conference. I don't know if they could have survived, but again, I want to just thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming in. We'll at the end, we'll have all of us together. And I just wanted to the Pioneers, to the Stillman, to the Buckeye Conference, and this will be edited. You might edit this out, Tyler. I don't know, but I just want to say that, I mean, you talked about so many Division I players at Elyria High alone. They're talking about Indiana, Northwestern, Ohio State, University of Buffalo. This is just from one school. We ain't even talking about the whole conference. So this talent, the talent that was in Elyria and Lorain, Coach Kurt Schumacher, right? Played at Lorain High, played at Ohio State. He was all Ohio fullback. Woody turned him into a guard, and he ended up being the 12th overall pick in the NFL draft for the Saints. Recently passed away. So and I'll talk a little bit more about Virgil Williams and all the Lorain High talent I saw. Eddie, he had older brothers that played. So when we come back on the break, we'll bring in Tracy, bring in Eddie, and we'll talk more about the rivalry. But I know you want to talk about Massillon and McKinley, and I know they missed a game here or there because of the war, but the Pioneers and the Stillman, they didn't miss. And then we'll come back and talk about, I don't know if it was a banquet, but it was a get-together. The first I ever heard of it was today with Stillman and the Pioneers. So this is a Lorain County Friday Night Lights production of 100 years, Elyria and Lorain on the Gridiron. And we'll be right back with Eddie Bauza and Tracy Mobley. So, hey, Lorain County Friday Night Lights, we're back. As you seen, off air, we continue with some good stories, but I wanted to thank our table sponsors, Jam Photography, the Sheffield Village Mayor, Josh Hammond, realtor at Swanser Group, and then Mike Duran, re-elect Mike Duran for recorder, the North Coast High Performance Team, which is a mouthful.
Recording stopped.
And then Preventive Pavement Maintenance of Ohio, Dave Ruppel. We wanted to thank him, and then I want to thank my buddy Jimmy Woods for the walleye fisher hunter for being a sponsor. So without them, this wouldn't be possible. So we talked a lot about the Pioneers, and we've got Eddie Bauza here, who's a 1984 graduate of Lorain High. He had, was it one or two brothers that played before you, Eddie?
An older, well, both played, but my middle brother only played freshman football.
Okay.
But we all three played.
Right.
At Hawthorne and
right.
then eventually Lorain High.
And I'll let Eddie take it away, but we had a little fun. And Dave Rivera, you can take
What's
a little.
Oh, okay.
Like you could have it would take a little jab, but Eddie was one of the first guys that reached out to us. I said, hey man, I want to, I know it's in the paper, the Chronicle and the Journal, they did, but and who reads the paper? It's hard to find print anymore, right? Yeah. I mean, a plain dealer doesn't even deliver. I was like, man, we need to get this on video. We need to get this history of this 100-year rivalry. And though the names have changed, the rivalry continues. They play again Saturday at 1 o'clock. And we're going back and forth. A couple other Lorain High guys. I'm going in, Lorain County Friday Night Lights. I played at Brookside. I'm a East Sider, and I'm an honorary Stillman, self-proclaimed. And then Dave Rivera, who's like, oh, man, wait, say something about 1996 or something. And then Eddie's too modest to put it up there on Facebook, and he says, tell King they have nothing to do with this historical rivalry. It's just, even though we talk about the Stillman and the Pioneers, Stillman is always, and when every opportunity opens, they're going to take a jab at an Admiral. So that's
right.
That funny story.
Well,
so, go ahead.
Just personal, not really too many accolades, but as a senior, right. I was honorable mention Buckeye Conference.
There you go.
And I strictly played defense, and it was a unique situation because I was a hybrid. I was a cornerback because I had pretty good speed.
Right.
I was a gunner when I was a junior on kickoff, and then I was the last person on kickoffs. So I saved a touchdown against Fremont Ross, and I had some moments.
Right.
our class, our first 2 years,
Who's some of the guys you played with?
I played with Mike Repko.
He's your quarterback, right?
Correct.
East Sider. Yeah, I knew the Repcos very well.
Patrick Williams of the Williams family.
Williams, right?
One of the twins.
Right. Patrick and Joe.
Kevin Curry.
Kevin Curry.
Billy's younger brother. I suited up against Billy a couple times. He's a class ahead of us, or
Right.
two. Randy Jarvis.
Randy Jarvis, yep.
Who else on that team? Memory's fading. However,
Right.
we were 18-2 as freshmen and sophomore, and the only two losses, Sandusky, and I can't remember. I think it was Tracy. Attrition. We lost guys. No, it was Eric. We lost guys from our freshman year to our senior year, and sadly, we were 10-10 our junior and senior year overall record.
Right.
So and we always figured out a way to lose to Sandusky in the last 5 minutes of all of those 4 games.
They're just
They
a
beat
common
us.
nemesis in the Buckeye, right?
And like I said, Elyria, those were hard fought games, but we were 3-1 against them. We were juniors. We lost to them at Ely Stadium. It was brutally cold.
Right.
And I remember
Last game of the year, right?
I remember having reservations about even coming back to play my senior year because it was so cold, and I was just on the kickoff team. It was bad. But I played a lot of ball my sophomore and my senior year. I started every game as a senior, but my love of football was because it was the neighborhood.
Right.
We were 20th in Oakdale on that same block on 18th Street,
Right.
where the Williamses. So
Yes.
Virgil, Bradley,
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Jerome, Patrick, and Joe. They were all excellent athletes.
Right.
And I only have. This was a scrimmage. We were scrimmaging that class of '82 with Jerome Williams. They used him as a fullback. I don't know if you remember Jerome Williams.
I remember Jerome.
He was about 5'9", about
Coochie, right?
240. Coochie.
Yeah.
Fast, strong. We were scrimmaging them. They opened up a hole that, you could drive a truck through.
That was Velanucci and Hartman and all that.
Correct.
Right.
I filled the hole for my corner spot, and who's coming at me, barreling at me like a train?
Right.
Jerome. And I did what any sensible person would do. I hit the deck, and he managed to trip over me in the hole.
You tackled.
And they said, "Great job, Bowser." I'm like, he fell down.
Hey,
But-
hey, this.
My thing was, I loved. We didn't have the best coaches, but they were our coaches.
Right.
So I had a lot of love for the coaches.
Who were some of the
them
coaches?
Most of them are gone, but our head coach at the time was Vic Farriga. He's gone.
Right. Was Mr. King still coaching?
He was coaching, but
What about-
also Mr. Bryant, who passed away. He was big time at Ohio State.
Right.
Chuck Bryant.
Right.
And
Scotty's dad, right?
correct.
Yeah.
And then, I got to shout out, obviously, the Williams family, but another kid from the neighborhood, Mac Young.
Mac Young.
He passed
Yeah.
a while back,
Mac-
but he was a hell of a player.
Right.
He played fullback. He played defensive line. He was just amazing athlete.
Big guy like a
went to the
teddy bear
state.
feet.
Went to the state in wrestling. Went to the state in shot. He was just a hell of an athlete.
Right.
And I played CYO basketball with him. Just a great dude, and I love that man. We grew up.
Did you
together.
play CYO ball with Harsall and
I
and
did.
and Craig Kimber?
I
You guys
did.
went to the
Nativity, yeah.
state championship.
We got
there.
our asses handed to us, but
Yeah.
we had a good time. It was in Toledo.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Tobacash was your coach.
Correct. Joe.
I find that. I work
Yeah.
with Joe.
yeah. But the rivalry, like I said earlier, it was always Sandusky, it was always Admiral King, but the Elyria game, it was always stressed to us that it was like one of the oldest rivalries, and it was always the last game of the season, so you wanted to get up for that game.
Right.
And so That's what made that game important. And the fact that we lost as juniors really got us up for that senior year.
Right.
And
So
it was, you know, I enjoyed the heck out of playing football and the friendships.
right, the relationships you build through athletics still go on to this
Yeah.
day, and then with social media, it's bringing us even closer. So my experience with Stillman football was the Rosie Jules, the Brad Williams from the Williams, and Frank Kohlmeyer was from my neighborhood, who recently got a couple years ago the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. But I know we talked briefly about the Elyria running backs, and they have a shrew of backs. We've had I know at Lorain High, it was a little bit after Eddie and myself, was Donald Church. It was a great back there. Williams, Comer, Jules, they were all in one backfield. That's the guys I grew up watching. Feeder system for Hawthorne, Irving, and Longfellow all culminated there. But and I did a story on Virgil. Virgil is the oldest of the Williams that Eddie mentioned that played playground football. Then of course played at Lorain High. Virgil was phenomenal back. That's 1976. So from 76 to when they ever dismantled the Steelman in
95 or 94, I
95,
believe.
yeah, somewhere in the mid 90s. He was the best Lorain High running back. He went on to play at Michigan, and then finished his career at I think all American safety at Toledo, and then went on to I believe became a colonel in the Army. I didn't know him personally. I just remember him watching him as an athlete. He wasn't that great of a basketball player. He was just an athlete.
Yes.
But he was a heck of a football player, and he was the offensive player of the year in the Buckeye Conference. So Elyria has a lot of its traditions, but so does Lorain have it. And then you got to think, Lorain in the early '60s, the city of Lorain got split in half. And then in the late 60s, it got split into a third. So there was a lot of talent in the city of Lorain. And no disparity at Elyria. Elyria had one high school. And then, in the early 70s, it went over to Elyria West. But for a long time, early 60s, it was split down the middle between King and Lorain. And you always heard these stories, Eddie. Man, if they combine these schools, what could be? And
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't make the team.
That's correct.
That's how much talent was in the city of Lorain. And Virgil went on to go play at Michigan. Frank went to go ahead and play at OU. Corey Earl was a tight end. He went on and played at Akron. Lipchek, I think he was a tight end. He was a Major League Baseball player. And then the guy in our neighborhood. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just got to say, people, like I said, in the early 70s, Elyria got split in half to Elyria West.
Right.
There was a lot of talent. I mean, Elyria High at one point had fifth and sixth string players. That's how big the team was.
Right.
Could you imagine the team with Lamar Jackson and Tyrone Nelson in the backfield?
Right.
I mean, that's a dream.
Right.
There was a lot of, or could you imagine? I can't remember his name now. He was right on
Madison?
Tovar,
Steve
in
Tovar.
an Elyria High uniform.
Right.
That was. I mean,
Did he go to West?
He went to West.
Okay.
went to West.
Wow.
And to you guys' point, that's why I created Lorain County Friday Night Lights, because I feel like the coverage of the Plain Dealer and Cleveland.com and some other outlets, ESPN Cleveland, I think they forget about Lorain County and all the talent that's in Lorain County. Now it's kind of shifted to other schools, but it's still in Lorain County.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there's, everybody played, and I mean everybody, played either with a Division I football player or against one. I mean, I was at Brookside. I played against Stasiak at Midview. I remember, our senior, we're going to whoop this sophomore's butt. He's starting. Man, Stagniak, he's at Midview. He whooped us up and down. He was 15-year-old kid, and
Stagniak was enormous.
Yeah, and then he went on and played for the Colts and blocked
and the Bills.
Yeah, he blocked for the little running back. Now I want to say Eric Snow, but it wasn't. It was running back at out of I can't think of his name. But
for the Colts?
For Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
And then he went on with the Colts.
Was it Carlos Snow?
I can't think of it.
Was it Carlos Snow? I can't. Here it is, Carlos Snow. Yes.
That's a wild guess.
Yeah, Carlos Snow. There was just talent everywhere. I'll take a quick story. I go over to Brookside, and by the time I'm a junior or senior, I'm one of the fastest kids in the school, and I'm thinking, man, I was like the third fastest kid in my neighborhood. I was like, you have no idea the talent that was in Lorain and then in Elyria. I'm sure there's a few names. Mike, I grew up with the Repcos. Mike ended up being starting quarterback for the Steelmen. You mentioned Randy Jarvis. Curry's came over from the west side and came and moved to our neighborhood and became outstanding athletes for the Steelmen. Of course, you played against Chris Hartman and Vince Vellanucci, both D1 players.
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green guys, and Vince went on to play for, I believe, the Buffalo Bills and the Packers. May he rest in peace. We talked about that. So it's just a lot of talent, and I don't want that. I just eagerly do not want that to be forgotten, and this is why I wanted to put this in video. And I'm sorry if I missed any names.
I'll give you a few.
Yeah, give me a few more.
Fremont Ross, Rob Lytle.
Rob Lytle at Fremont Ross went on and played at
Charles Woodson.
the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, this is all in one conference. I know this is the conference was dismantled. Roethlisberger went to Finley. Yeah.
There was one other one.
Yeah.
Oh, Admiral King, Raymont Harris.
Harris.
All Buckeye.
Yeah.
Jerry Evans from
Evans.
Admiral King.
Yeah.
Orlando Pace.
Yes, I saw him play against
Hall of
Lorain
Fame
High. My
Buckeye
goodness.
Conference. Yeah. I mean, you got a Heisman Trophy winner, Vic Janowitz, back in the day, Elyria High, way before our time. But times have changed. Like I said, they've moved in. Those type of families and athletes have moved from different communities. I mean, we don't want to get into the steel mills and the Fords, and have moved on. So those families have to move on. When jobs leave, men leave, and families leave. I always say that. But I don't want this. I don't want this to be. I don't want it to be forgotten. And then we're gonna this era of social media and YouTube. This is gonna last forever. You can search Lorain County high school football, and Eddie and Tracy and myself will be there. But tell us a little bit, Tracy. I know you're a third-year veteran, but tell us a little bit about your history as a Pioneer.
Believe it or not, my history of Elyria High football was taught to me by my sister, Leona.
Okay.
Leona would take
Tell us more about that.
Leona would take me to the Elyria High football games when she was in high. She was 9 years older than me.
Okay.
And she would take me to the Elyria High football games, and I just thought it was, at that age, I thought, well, this is what the pros are.
Right.
Under the lights on Friday night, everybody's here.
Right. The whole city, whole town.
Watching these guys play, and it's just like, it was, like I said, it was like being, I'm like, well, who's the Browns?
Right.
And, the older I got, you dream of playing for Elyria High, but I had one problem is, as I got older and everybody else around me got bigger, I stayed the same size.
Right.
I was really small.
Right.
So I, come up, my sophomore year, I played safety. I didn't start a lot of the season, but I ended up starting the end of the season.
Okay.
And my junior year, I remember coming out on the football field, and I was still really small. I looked around and I went, I'm not going to get to play, so I better go work on myself.
Right.
So I left the team and started lifting weights, and came back, and it was. I thought that all the training I did to get ready for this was getting me ready for football, and he got out there. I mean, all the running we did, and just running and exercising, and I remember they used to have saying, it said somebody would yell for a water break, and they said you have to earn a water break. You have to earn one.
Yeah, you're a mom or dad's gonna come talk to you the next day.
Yeah.
You do that to their kid today. But we talk about, Tracy, a little piggyback on that, Eddie, is like, I don't know about you, but me, the Friday night football game was always the event. I mean, and even, we were little, maybe ran around a little bit or went off to the side and found a football and we played, but that was the place to be. There was really nothing else going on.
Yeah.
You're talking about we're being in junior high school or freshman. You were at the high school football game on Friday night.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's just, that any different with you?
Well, because my brother, he graduated in '79, but
Right.
all of his away games, my dad was a employee at Ford Lorain.
Right.
He had in a Econoline van,
There you go.
and we'd pile in and we'd go to all the away games.
Didn't miss one. It's similar to the Bushes, right?
Not one.
That's just
And
what
so,
you did.
it was really something seeing, my brother out there doing well. He started off 4 years, so he had, way better athlete than me.
Okay.
But
What's
the
your brother's
guy-
name?
Rudy.
Okay.
The guys from the neighborhood, the Williamses, the Huffs,
Right.
the Charlie Maston.
Yeah, Charlie
was a
Madsen.
hell of a back.
A hell of a back, Charlie Madsen.
And those guys used to come by our house all the time.
Right.
And so you looked up to these guys. They were
Right.
like your heroes, your role models.
Right.
And you wanted to wear that black and gold.
Yeah.
Right.
And you wanted to wear that red and white.
Yep.
Right.
That was,
Yeah.
for somebody, that was kind of like aspirational.
Right.
We couldn't even spell aspirational.
Right.
If you spotted us, all the letters.
Right.
Yeah. Growing up, but it really was something.
Right. And I think with the losing of Elyria West, the consolidation of schools in Lorain, I feel like we're missing that community.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you follow the Titans. Seen you at the game against Brush. Shout out to Flowers T-shirt company.
Yes,
He
sir.
had a shirt on the 84 class there. So, but it was just a community thing, and I think. I know it was a good idea. Let's put everybody under one umbrella, one campus. But I feel like those schools were just more than buildings. They were communities. And people were tied to those buildings, even though they're physical buildings. And talked to a Stillman the other day, came up, picked up some shirts at the shop. And he said, those schools are gone. The people are still here. And Eddie Bowles is a Stillman. His family will forever be Stillman, though they follow the Titans, and that's just my take on it.
Well,
Yeah,
I would say, Steelman first, but I've always supported all the other teams. 'Cause
Right.
I remember when Admiral King was doing big things in basketball.
Right.
I went down to Columbus to see them play in the Final Four.
Right.
So it was, like you said, it was a community thing.
Right.
And I moved away from Ohio. I moved back in '04.
Okay.
And I try to make at least one game at George Daniel.
Right.
When Elyria made the playoffs,
Right.
and Jerome Williams' son J. Rome was playing.
Yes.
I went to that game because
There
I
you go.
got guys from my old neighborhood
Right.
that go to just different games. I went to a Midview playoff game once.
Right.
I just enjoy the whole Friday night.
lights.
Well, you said that the schools are a community. I think they're trying to bring some of that back, like with the Little Titans, the Little Pioneers. They're trying to get like a culture
Sure.
going, from CYO age
Right.
all the way through high school. They just got to keep those kids in there and interested and ready to go. And I honestly think that they should probably try to do something like that with basketball as well.
Right.
You know, because
Yeah.
you know, Elyria High, Lorain High, Admiral King, they all have history in basketball too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you can get something like that going, I think that would be. I think it would
You got to give the kids an outlet to,
Yeah.
with so many other options out
Yes.
there. They athletics a
Yeah.
lot of times keeps a young man or a young woman coming to school.
Exactly,
And connected to that, you're in school 6-7 hours, then you go play a sport. All you want to do is go home and eat and go to bed.
Yeah.
And guess what?
That's all I did.
That eliminates all those other options.
Exactly.
That's how I always felt about athletics. You know, you kept your son active. That's how I kept mine. But you know what? Back to community, Eddie. That's all I knew. All I
Yeah.
knew is I moved to a new neighborhood, and they knocked at the door. I went and played football. The next day, you know, my mom was kind of strict, single mom, and they said, "Hey, do you want to play football?" And I was like, "Man, they think I'm good enough they want to ask me a second day." I look back over. I'll never forget. I look back over my mom, and she nodded my head like, "You can go play."
Yeah.
And that was just like, I'll never forget that. I think I was like in third grade, and then at the Norland Williams, Steve Miller played and Jesse Miller and those guys, his younger brothers, and I played with those kids. And then when Norland came, you know, and then he came with a couple other Lorain High. When the practice was over, he'd come down, he'd play. Well, we used to call it artificial or official quarterback.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
'cause, you know, he was a varsity player.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
couldn't hit him even though we were little.
Yeah.
But it was just that desire to want to be outside and play, and it kept us out of the elements.
Yeah, it was definitely the neighborhood because you can still go to Garden Avenue and 20th Street, and that Hawthorne Boone football field is there.
Right.
We played so much tackle football year round. I
Right.
remember playing in like a foot of snow.
Right.
We were on it.
Well, you know, too is I think it's almost inbred in boys to compete.
Right.
Because I remember at my, that is so stupid. I remember at my elementary school, you know, back when I was going to school, you would get snow like this. You know?
Right.
So every morning we go to school and we play football in this field and back. Right. Well, when the snow got too deep, we play on the asphalt.
Right.
Well, the asphalt got covered with ice.
Oh, yeah.
And us kids, the boys, we're out there because we got our winter coats on. We're playing tackle football on asphalt with ice covering.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It was just we wanted to play so bad, we wanted to compete so bad that that's how we did.
That's great that you
think
brought
it's-
that up because it's a very similar experience.
Yeah. It starts early, and then we circle back to that's why the thirst, and you know, a lot of that was inbred in you know, the Bowses and the Mobleys of the world, and the Bushes
Oh,
and
my
the
goodness.
and the Marshes and the Johnsons of the world, and what made that rivalry so important. And it was 100 years. I mean, not even the McKinley Masculine surpassed it. So in closing, I wanted to say this is our first series that we put together. 100 years on the Gridiron. The Lorain High Steelman versus the Elyria Pioneers. I want to thank Eddie Bowser, Tim Johnson, Jack Marsh, Tracy Mobley, Tyler on the ones and twos for hanging in there, putting together. They're getting ready to turn the lights off on us at the hotel. I gotta pay the food bill. So, and I got a honey-do list to, believe it or not, at home at 10 o'clock at night.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
Yeah, so we had fun. I want to thank our sponsors again: Jam Photography, Sheffield Village, North Coast High Performance Team, PMOH, Pavement Maintenance of Ohio, Mike Duran, re-elect Mike Duran Committee, and Josh Hammond of the Swanzer Realtor Group, and the Walleye Fishermen. So I want to thank all our sponsors for being our table sponsors. I don't believe I missed anybody. Let me look over there. I think I got everybody. So, again, as Lorain County Friday Night Lights, stay healthy, stay positive. We're out.
Let's go Pioneers.
Go Titans.